Welcome to the World History 1 lecture series. At the end of each slide there will be a 10-second delay. Use this time to pause the presentation and complete your notes. When you are done, push play and you will move forward. This lecture will begin in 5 seconds. Welcome to World History 1 Lecture 9.4 on the Crusades and Plagues, and welcome to the High Middle Age. We've made it through the darkest of times, so now what can we expect? More warfare and a deadly disease. This age is not much different than what we just saw. Instead, danger, more death, and violence ahead. So, how is the High Middle Age different than the Dark Age? Well, everything that happens from this point forward forms the basis for the modern era. In other words, everything we see today can ultimately be traced back to this time in history. With that said, let's go to the next slide. You learned that popes in the medieval era were very powerful, even more powerful than they are today. So let's look and see just how powerful these men were and talk about the Crusades. The Crusades are multiple Christian military campaigns that attempted to take control of the Holy Land in the Middle East from Muslim occupation. The Islamic Empire has taken over places like Jerusalem, and Christians in Western Europe want it back. There are 10 crusades, 9 crusades and the Children's Crusade that occur between 1096 and 1272 CE. So over the course of almost 200 years, Christians from Western Europe are going all the way across the Mediterranean basin to fight for Christianity in Muslim-held lands. Well, how did this start in the first place? The Crusades start after Pope Urban II speaks at the Council of Clermont in 1095 CE and instructs Christians to go to the aid of the Byzantines to recapture Palestine from the Muslims. Pope Urban tells Western Christians, Roman Catholics, to go help Eastern Christians, those are Orthodox Christians, take back Jerusalem from the Muslims. How powerful was the Pope? This guy started a holy war. That's how powerful these men were. Go to the next slide. The Crusades last a long time, but there are 4 important events that define this period in history. Crusaders captured Jerusalem during the First Crusade in 1099 CE. Roman Catholics and Orthodox Christians make their way across the Mediterranean basin and they retake Jerusalem and the surrounding lands from the Muslims. Now we have a problem. How do we keep the Muslims from taking this land back? We create Crusader states. Crusader states are around from 1099 to 1192 CE. They are created by Christians to maintain and control conquered territory in the Holy Land. This does not work forever. After Saladin, who is a Muslim, recaptures but does not sack or destroy Jerusalem in 1187 CE, Richard I of England, we know him as Richard the Lionheart, leads the Third Crusade from 1187 to 1192 CE. This is the same Richard we hear about in the Robin Hood stories. But sometimes these crusades hit a glitch. During the Fourth Crusade, Western Crusaders sack Constantinople in 1203 CE. They go ahead and they loot the city of the very people they were sent to help in the first place, the Byzantines. And this happens due to fundamental failures in financing, planning, and carrying out their campaign. So, not all crusades were successful. Go to the next slide. The effect and legacy of the Crusades forms the foundation for modern Western civilization. So let's start by looking at the effect of the Crusades. They weaken the power of the Pope and nobles and strengthen the power of kings who inherit property of deceased nobles and become leaders. What does that mean? Well, it works like this. Up to this point, the kings do not have a lot of power. The nobles own the property and they have the wealth, and the church controls the nobles. But there's one rule. If a noble dies, all that property and wealth goes to the king. So as all these nobles go to the Middle East and get themselves killed, their property goes to the king. The king gets more and more wealth and property, and eventually the king becomes the strongest person in the land. Second, they stimulate trade due to a demand for Middle Eastern goods and foster a credit and banking system so that crusaders could travel safely. Crusaders are going out to the Middle East and they are finding things there that they really like coffee and tea and silk. And when they come home, they want these things. So we've got to get it to them, and we have trade. It is not safe, though, to go to the Middle East, so we're going to use credit and make sure that when we land up in Jerusalem, we've got some money. Then there are the legacy of the Crusades. The big one is this: there is lasting bitterness between the three major religions. Christians are invading Muslims, Jews are caught in the middle. All three major Western religions still have issues with each other because of some of the stuff that happened during the Crusades. Next, the Byzantine Empire grows weak and becomes vulnerable. The Byzantine Empire goes and fights the Crusades, and in the process, they become weak, and the Muslims will eventually be able to invade. Last, new knowledge is brought to Europe through Arabic texts captured by Christians. Western Europe is about to become educated once again. Go to the next slide. The Crusades aren't the only thing that formed the basis of Western civilization. Nothing short of a natural disaster will spread across Europe, and the bubonic plague will change the course of history in less than 3 years. The bubonic plague, or Black Death, occurred from 1347 to 1350 CE and spread from Asia into Western Europe. The theory is this: the Mongols invade Europe from Asia, they bring the plague with them, and human bodies in Western Europe cannot deal with the disease. The plague spread when fleas bit infected rats, and then the fleas landed on humans and bit them. Infected rats basically get on boats, they sail to a new port, they get off, and they're bit by fleas, the fleas bite humans, and it's all over for the humans. This disease is deadly. There is a significant decline in population. 1 out of 3 people died within 3 years. 1/3 of Europe's population dies because of this disease. Because of this, the plague decimated some areas while leaving other areas unaffected, and urban areas recover faster. In the country, more than 1/3 of the population is going to die. In the city, not as many people might die. Cities will recover faster. But the church is going to have a problem. It will not recover faster. The church's influence declined as clergy died and no one could explain the outbreak. The church cannot explain what's going on, and people lose just a little faith in the church. Go to the next slide. The bubonic plague also forms the foundation for the modern Western economy we see today. Healthy workers were scarce. There are not a lot of healthy people left after the plague spreads through Europe, which allowed society to become socially mobile and freed towns and their people from feudal obligations. What does that mean? Now, healthy serfs are in demand. They are the last healthy workers around, they no longer need to rely on the feudal lord because people are relying on them. They are becoming more powerful because of this, and they are moving up in society. Also, people stopped trading to suppress the plague or stop it, which causes a shift in trading centers based on the effects of the plague. You're not going to go to a town where everyone has died due to the plague. You're going to go to a town and trade with cities that are relatively healthy. So, some places like Venice and Florence prosper because of the plague's effect. Venice and Florence are on the Italian peninsula. These cities will become so powerful that they will be where we see the beginnings of the Italian Renaissance. Thank you for watching this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in class.